Hello and welcome to PowerPoint Pro Moves, the how-to series focused on tips, tricks, and workflow hacks to help you build stunning presentations in record time. I am your host, Michael Thiel, Executive Vice President and Imaginator at Automätik. We're a training and events firm focused on eradicating boring training from the face of the earth, and we know that great presentations are a key part of that puzzle. So this is our start of our third season of PowerPoint Pro Moves. And in season one, we focused in on how to set up your PowerPoint workspace and also your office space for speed and precision. In season two, we focused on great keyboard shortcuts that can help you do a lot with less effort. And now in season three, we are going to focus in on presentation hacks. So what are some ways that we can get a lot done and make a presentation look fantastic, but not use a lot of assets? And more importantly, let's avoid bullet points at all costs. That is our game plan. Now let's make it happen. Welcome to PowerPoint Pro Moves. Okay, we're promising you some cool presentation hacks, and in season 3 episode 1 we're going to focus on how to, for example, take a company website and turn it into a kick butt presentation, and we're gonna do it guerrilla style. So here's the end product, and then we'll walk through the process of how this is done. So here's the idea. To do this, I'm going to use our company website, so that's automatic.com. If you want to go there, check it out. You sure can. But the idea was this. Listen, we get a lot of requests for a company overview or a presentation, whether we're doing that or somebody goes, hey, can you send me a deck about your company? So the idea here behind this is that we already have put a lot of work into our website. So why not turn our website into a nice little presentation instead of having to reinvent the wheel and do things over? So the concept here, if we just back it up a couple, is that we're going to use the Morph Transition in concert with just a couple of, I think we have a total of maybe 3 or 4 different screenshot images, and we use Morph to create some cool effects here in terms of just showcasing what we do and then using some shape overlays to call attention, almost like a little laser pointer without having to resort to a laser pointer. And you can see project team. What you're going to see here is just one single image that we use, and we change scale, we use some crops, we use some shape overlays to go ahead and, for example, introduce the team and then jump back out. So that's the concept in motion. We are using screenshots, we are using Morph, and some shape overlays to call attention to it. So if you get it at that point, you can stop the video and you can then go ahead and practice it. If you want to see how this is done from the behind the scenes, stay tuned and we'll get that done right now. Alrighty, if you are back right now, you want to know how this donut was made. So the idea is, and I'm going to use my mouse here, and I'm just going to use control wheel mouse down to show some of the off screen area, or you might call it the off stage area of your PowerPoint. And then where you see the grid lines here, that is your on stage area. So when we're designing presentations, we think a lot about off stage and on stage, and think about your presentation almost like a theater production. What are you presenting on screen? What's waiting to come on screen? And if you use the Morph Transition in PowerPoint, which for my money is one of the most powerful visual effects in terms of getting a lot done without a lot of effort. If you just shift your mind and think about your presentation as off stage and on stage, you can do some cool stuff. As I just thumb through some of these slides, you're going to notice, and let me just make my offstage area a little bit different size here. I'm going to just jump from a couple of these slides, and if you just focus in on this grid space, you're going to notice the images are changing scale and they're changing position, and new assets are hidden off stage and then come on stage, while previous objects from earlier slides, if I'm jumping around, are now off stage. And in this case, you can see here's a little rectangle. And in this, on slide 9, that is hidden off stage. On slide 10, it has changed shape. It has now jumped onto stage and it's highlighting features. So in motion, and to do this, you can either go down to your slideshow button, or you can use my preferred Pro Move method, which is just hitting Shift F5 from any current slide that you want to put into slide mode, or presentation mode, excuse me. You can hit Shift F5 and you go into presentation mode here. So when you jump through those, and every time I'm advancing my slide here, we are changing scale and position, and you get some cool effects. You can have what's called the parallax scrolling effect, when you have two different objects changing scale and position at a different rate of pace. You get a cool effect, but there you can see I have different elements coming in to call attention. So the first concept there was, I said, all right, I want to take our website, and if I just go to our website here, I want to take some things that we've already done on our website in terms of putting a lot of effort to it, right? We have our overall highlighted brand statement. We've got some information about us where if individuals want to learn more about automätik. And we're a one-stop training shop here, so we do everything from event planning, event production, instructional design, graphic design. We manage enterprise level mobile text campaigns, and we've got good quotes and attributions. So it's one thing to just roll through this if you're just hanging out maybe on a webcast or something, but in terms of doing this in front of let's say it's a high stakes event, this would be really awkward to sit here and scroll with a mouse and do that. It's just not the right fit. So the idea here was, let's use all the great assets that we have, leverage the power of PowerPoint to help make those points in a presentation friendly way. So we've got step one is we already have a kick butt website. What we're going to do is use some really clean screenshots of our screen, and we're going to use the snip tool. So it's called Snip and Sketch. Previous one was called Snipping Tool. The new one is Snip and Sketch. I'm going to open this. There's a couple ways you can get there. I like to just go down to the Windows search bar and I'll just type snip. Actually, just SN. Snip and Sketch. Okay, so we're going to open this up. I'm going to show you this for just a minute here, and this is what I want you to pay attention to. Is there's this little highlight in the middle that says press the Windows logo key plus Shift plus S to snip what's on your screen without starting Snip and Sketch. So in other words, you don't actually need to open up Snip and Sketch. You can just find something that you want to take a clean screenshot of. And in this case, I'm going to hit F11 to put my Chrome browser into full screen view. So I'm going to hit F11, get this screen as big and pure as possible. And then I'm just going to hit Windows Shift S, and that starts Snip and Sketch. And you have the ability to do a rectangular snip, a freeform snip. The preferred method for this example is use the window snip or the full screen snip. Now I will say this, I'm not going to use the full screen snip because if you have an extended screen display like I do, so for example, what I'm moving my mouse on right now is my large screen, but to the right over here I have my tiny little laptop screen. So I do not want to use full screen in this case. If you just have one display, that'll work great. But if you are using an extended desktop type display, use window snip and then select the window that you want to snip. So I've got that. All I need to do right now is left click on this window, and you see that little blue frosted highlight come up. That means we have made a screen snip. If I go back and hit Alt Tab to PowerPoint, and at this point you can hit Control V to paste in that screen snip. All right, so that would be step one. I'm just going to add a couple. I'm going to add in a blank slide here as well. All right, we'll know that's the beginning of where we're starting here. So to make this whole effect, really all I did was I took one slide, and in this case I'm just jumping back here and I'm saying, okay, I want this to have a bit of a feel of a scrolling down. I want to mimic the feel of our website, and so let's do this. I'll probably stop it about right here, and that looks pretty good. So I'm going to hit Window Shift S. I'm going to make sure I'm still on that default window snip. I'm going to left click, and that's on my clipboard now, so I can go ahead and paste it onto the slide. I think I'll center align it, and I'm going to just use my arrow and drop it down here. Okay, let's get one more. So I'm going to Alt Tab back, and let's say I want to do this last piece here. All right, so let's get this one. So remember that tip, Window Shift S, left click, jump back, paste it, and you might need to center it and take it down. All right. And the other thing that we needed was we need to insert a shape. So I'm going to use my shape tool. I'm going to create a little rectangle here. And in this case, I want the, and by the way, if you do not have the format shape pane open, you can right click, go down to format shape. And what I want to do is go to my fill option. I want to go solid fill, black, and I probably want to kick this to something like 65%. Hit enter, and that way as we move it around you can see it's going to highlight things. I also have my wheel mouse on this, it's currently got a bit of a blue fill for the overall line. Let's make that line a little thicker just for demo. I'm going to kick it up to like 2.5. And for the color of it, I'm going to use my eyedropper. I'm going to highlight this little yellow here just to keep it consistent with what we've got going on. And when I want to bring this on stage, I can highlight it, and you're going to notice over here it'll change its look and feel. You can drag the handles, or you can just use my pro move of selecting the shape and then just using my arrow keys to make it bigger or smaller, that kind of thing. So I think at this point we have everything we need to make that scrolling effect happen. So I think the last thing that I would recommend here is we've got picture 1, picture 2, picture 3. If you want to make these have contextual names, you can just go to your selection pane and change the names of them. I'm just going to call this Services 1. And then this one I'm going to call Services 2. Alright. And then depending on how you want these, when we start to use the morph transition, so make sure your transition's set to morph. I have this one set to 1.25 seconds of transition speed. You can change that faster or slower. I personally like 1.25. Before you start to duplicate this slide, get your layer hierarchy correct. So let's have our landing page be lowest one, and then we'll have Services 1 be the next, and then Services 2. And then I always want my shape rectangle, which I'm going to rename this mask, because it's going to be a mask that will overlay on different bits of text when the time is right, just more to help visually be your prompt of what you're talking about. Okay, I'm going to select all those. I'm just going to make sure they're all centered, nice and centered. So if they weren't, and this was all jacked up, if I hit Control A and then hit the center icon, I get that ability to get them centered. I can group them, and then I can center them relative to the slide. Hit Control Shift G to ungroup them. So you can work pretty fast and efficient. The other thing I'm going to do is I have a header bar up here, but remember, as you scroll in real life, that header bar stays persistent. So on my slides, to keep that effect going on each one of these elements, I am going to crop out the header bar. I'm going to use my crop tool. I'm going to hit Alt while cropping to get a nice precise crop. Same here. get a nice little precise crop. So each of these images are all set, and at this point I think we can make the animation happen pretty cool. All right, so let us also get this shape out of the way. So right now I'm just gonna arrow that down. I'm gonna have that off stage. And on the first slide, let's do this. By the way, I believe we had our automatic logo, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so right now I've got this moved over. I'm gonna put our automatic logo right here, and I'm gonna use Shift, make this a little bigger. And as I'm doing this, by the way, what I am doing is I am using the slide thumbnail as my preview. So I'm kind of liking what's going on here. So I'm going to make that my slide 1. You're going to notice there's no slides below that. So as you get your animations going, make sure you have your slide transition set to morph. And now all we need to do is hit Control D on this slide, and we can go, okay, what do we want the next thing to do? In this case, we're going to want to jump this over and have this show up. And I'm going to have this move down. Probably, let's arrow down on that. We're going to use that as a little effect. So if you want to preview that, you can hit the preview and it'll show you how that's going to jump over. So you can do something like that. You can hit Control D on this slide. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have this hide on this slide. So I'm going to just use my selection pane. I'm going to hide it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this a little smaller. I'm gonna center it. Let's just get this back to the slide size, and what we're gonna do is now introduce our next slide. On our next slide here is we're gonna bring this up and introduce our services. So if you preview that, you're gonna see it's gonna have a cool little parallax scrolling effect. I'm gonna now hit Control D on that slide, and we're going to highlight our services. So in this case, I've got our services. I'm gonna make it a little larger, and let's bring this up to the top of the slide. Let's now have this box little shape overlay come in. By the way, I'm going to show you another pro move. If you use these handles while hitting Control, you can move both sides, and if you then hit Control Alt, you get super precise control of both edges at the same time. And then I just make sure that is aligned. So now check out this preview, and you're going to see we get another little cool effect. If we want to take our landing image and move it up a little bit and have it expand during the same element, you're going to get a little bit of a parallax effect going. I don't know if I really like that, so I'm not going to do that. I might just have that go a little higher. Let's check out that effect. That's kind of cool. That's working. All right, so now let's move on, and we're going to duplicate this slide. So you can see the workflow is we're just mimicking the scrolling effect as we go. All right, so, and by the way, if you get a little lost and you go, okay, where am I? Where's my services 2 at? You can see that's still way down here. So we're just gonna bring that one up. Oh, we need to highlight the second batch of services. So in this case, we're gonna have the shape come on down. Let's just have that. I'm gonna hit Shift to constrain it so it's a nice clean slide down, and I'm going to take this, I'm going to slightly increase the size just to have a little more of an effect go on as we go, as you're going to see how this works here. Let's check this out. Yeah, see that? So it's just tricking the eye a little bit. If I hit Control Alt, get that nice little precise, just to have everything slightly change. Okay, and then the workflow is select your slide, hit Control D to duplicate it. Now what we're going to do is have this services slide. Let's have this scroll not quite all the way off stage, but about here to the top. And really the reason I'm saying about using generalities is this is an art, not a science. So in this case, I'm going to introduce this slide on to the stage, and you can see I'm bringing that up. I'm going to use my arrow keys. I'm going to highlight this next piece, which is our mobile text communication campaign capability. So let's preview that. And you can see we're getting some cool stuff happening here. Kind of liking how that's giving us a little black coming on in there. Liking that. If I wanted to highlight anything else, I think what we did, we hit Control D, and then the shift in this case was, let's just take these 2 images and we're going to move those off stage. And now I'm going to make this a little smaller. I'm going to bring up this all the way to the top. We are in business. So in this case, we want to invite individuals to check out our past projects, since we've done a lot of cool stuff for a lot of amazing companies. If we want to say check out our past projects, you could do that. If we just go back to home, or excuse me, transitions, hit preview, you can see how that's going to work. Okay, so we've done that in motion. Let's take a look at this and how you might use this in lieu of just going over and scrolling through your website, right? Which isn't a super elegant way to present. So what we would do is we would go ahead and hit Shift F5. And at this point, you can use this as a nicely paced presentation. So in this case, we might say, hey, we're automätik. We're a training and events firm with a mission to eradicate boring training from the face of the earth. And we've been honored to produce award-winning experiential learning and consumer events for some of the world's most admired brands out there. And we're a one-stop shop. So we have underneath our roof really 7 core products or services that we can offer as a firm. So we're event planning, event production, and instructional design. In addition, we have amazing graphic design, video production, and app web development all in-house. And one of the other cool things we've been doing lately is managing enterprise-grade text campaigns. And if you want to learn a little bit more about us, check us out. We have a section on our website that's all about our past projects. All right, well, we've promised you presentation hacks, and that was today's. Turn your company website into a kick-butt presentation and do it guerrilla style. If you've enjoyed it, we'd love you to come back and visit. Check out automätik.com. We also post these up on the YouTubes and the LinkedIns, all those places, so check us out. Thanks for tuning in to PowerPoint Pro Moves. Stay tuned for more episodes coming up this season. Thanks, and make it a great day.